Oh, here we go.
This state appellate panel concluded that there is uncontroverted evidence.
Hi, everybody. For
Hello.
everyone who's joining the meeting, if you don't mind muting yourselves, that would be awesome. If you have any issues with that, I'm happy to help you. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started in just a moment. For anyone new joining us, if you don't mind muting yourselves, unless you're one of the presenters, that would be great. We're going to get started in just a jiffy. Okay, everybody, I think let's get rolling. So my name is Marcella. I am the resident unicorn at Palette. I recognize a lot of people in the chat here. We have so many Palette members. I would say raise your hands, but we're kind of in a Zoom room. I guess technically you can raise your hand here. So welcome to all of our members. Welcome to our presenters. Welcome to anyone who is finding us for the first time. So if you don't know about Palette, Palette is an organization. We're based in Saratoga and Schenectady, New York, and we are a community and a co-working space. And we are all about leveling up in career and in life together. So we're community based on collaboration, primarily women, but you know what? We are inclusive and we're all about doing it together because we can have it all. We just sometimes need a little help. We got to work together. So we're so excited today to have the Gamegirl team to be presenting to us about their short film. But before that, I need to turn it over to Steve Gonick, who is our illustrious host for today.
Thank you very much and welcome. I'm here at Palette Cafe. Sorry, because it's so beautiful. I had to stay outside, so you might hear a little bit of Broadway driving by. We're a little bit crowded over here as well. So the first thing that I wanted to do is tell you about the big pitch. What we have done this now 3 times. This will be the 3rd time that we do this. From time to time, we get entrepreneurs who come at us and want to tell our community about what they are working on. Some of them are looking for investment, some of them are looking for advice. So when I get something interesting that comes to us, like the Gamegirl crew, we bring them forward. Now, those of you who follow this, who've been to the other 2 big pitches, will know that last month we had Antithesis Foods and the makers of Garbanzo's healthy treats and chips. I thought Jason is with us here, and I thought it would be fun to just start with a 1-minute update on what is going on with Jason. So Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and thanks for inviting me back to talk to everyone. That was just a great event. We got a lot of great feedback on the pitch, which led to some other successful pitches. We fully onboarded with the happy package who we were talking about, so they do all of our fulfillment, so we've been able to focus on adding more retailers. I highly recommend the retailer and brand portal fair. We added about 8 new retailers. Our time to fulfill went down by 82% by onboarding the happy package, so that was wonderful. We did a giveaway with folks from Palette, Tarabat, with a coffee, a Galletti Garbanzo collab. So that was really fun. We submitted our phase 2 grant for our crunchy ingredients. We made some cocoa. These are Oreo cookie, high fiber, low calorie inclusions if folks are interested in adding that to any of their products. So that was part of our grant. And then we did a successful scale up of our chip product, which like people are really liking, and they look sort of like this. And we did that in Vermont. So I look forward to updating a little bit more when we have a bunch more products on shelf, and you can try some of these delicious crunchy savories. So thanks everyone for the opportunity to tell our story. I'm pumped for I'm a big gamer, so I'm pumped to hear about gaming today.
All right, Jason, very, very good. You know, of course, I have the gigantic truck making noise right out here. The 1 minute that I have to talk. So I'm gonna pass it off to the Gamegirl crew. Just a couple things. These three young ladies were introduced to me by someone I do business with in the Capital District here, who has been working with them. They just graduated from NYU in the same film program that produced Spike Lee, Oliver Stone, Chloe Zhao, who is the hot one right now. She came right out of NYU and she did everything for Nomadland. Who else? Martin Scorsese. It is the premier film program in the world, probably. And we are lucky enough to have them presenting. So you can see they're all on the screen right now. I think I'm going to toss it over to Rachel in 1 second, but here's the rules. We're going to all keep on mute. We're going to give these filmmakers a chance to unimpeded to do their presentation, which will run about 20 to 30 minutes or so. And if you have a question, what we want you to do is go into the chat function here and just write to Marcella, I have a question, right? And then when we open up for questions, it's first come, first serve, and then we'll turn it over to you to ask your question. This way, they don't get all interrupted and everything. Now, if you need a clarification about something, you can you can write the clarification into Marcella, and either Marcella can clarify or she'll interrupt and have the Gamegirl team to answer the clarification. Okay, I am all set, and we will turn it over to Rachel and the Gamegirl team.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Steve, for all the kind words, and sincerely, such a warm thank you to all of you for joining in today. On behalf of the Gamegirl team members and myself, we are extremely grateful and excited to share our passion project of the last 7 months with you today. Before I dive in, I'd like to introduce the core team a little bit. Hi, I'm Rachel Lipkin. I hailed from the Boston area to New York University, where I graduated from the drama department with a double minor in film, TV production, and media culture communication. I'm also a graduate of the Nine Muses Lab under the mentorship of Bryce Dallas Howard, and I'm currently a working member of the entertainment industry. And I'm also one of the co-writers and co-directors of this project.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dayva, and I'm Rachel's co-director on this project.
Hi, all. I'm Jess. I am a co-writer, and I'm acting in the film.
And our two lovely and incredibly talented producers, Pranav and Sydney, are joining us today in the crowd. Hi, Pranav and Sydney. And we are all graduates of NYU Tisch, either via the drama department or the film and TV department. So, Gamegirl, why are we here? Well, Gamegirl started off as an outlet for me as a frankly not so great diary entry after getting out of what we'll call a tumultuous relationship. Everything started off like a fairy tale. We would walk the streets of New York bantering for hours. One of our very first dates, we played with puppies at a pet store. I mean, like, come on, who doesn't love puppies? No person isn't a sucker for puppies and on a date. I mean, that's grade A date material right there. I recommend taking notes on that one, people. Needless to say, I thought I had found my match. We both had a passion for stand-up comedy, film, and TV. At the ripe age of 21, we bonded over our hardships and our upbringings as two first-generation Americans. Whip out your charcuterie boards, because as cheesy as it sounds, it felt good to finally feel seen in a city that could swallow you whole. My seemingly endless laughter soon started to dwindle as I found myself the butt of his jokes, and comments labeled as a joke had sinister undertones that made me question not the relationship, but my own contribution to it. I started to feel like I wasn't enough, not because I wasn't, but because that's what he was telling me. It started off subtle, but escalated into full-on verbal attacks of my personhood, the people I surrounded myself, decision-making, and threats of his suicide if I stepped out of turn. I felt out of control because someone else was dictating who I was and wasn't. I'll spare you all the extent of the gory details, but needless to say, if that time in my life was a beverage, it would be dark and stormy on the rocks, make it a double. But for every painful hangover, there is a beautiful light at the end of the tunnel. My personal remedy, a bagel. That's not a metaphor, I just genuinely really like bagels. It's the nice Jewish girl in me, a bagel and a good story of overcoming. So when I finally ended that relationship, I didn't know how to process what the heck had happened. Confused, emotional, lonely, and I mean, in a pandemic, I did the only thing I knew how to do. I wrote what wasn't a very good story at all. Gamegirl, at the time titled Gameboy, followed a girl who sets off to get her Game Boy console back from her ex-boyfriend. Fast forward half a year and a lot of emotional bagels, AKA therapy. Later, I began to share my experiences with the women in my life. And I came to understand just how remarkably unremarkable and relatable my experiences were. Even if each woman I spoke with hadn't undergone an emotionally abusive relationship, they knew at least a few friends that had, at minimum. Jess, my now co-writer, was one of the first people I opened up to about this. And together we bonded over stories of female empowerment, toxic cycles, and mental health. As two storytellers, I shared my script with her, and together we picked apart every last detail of the story and rewrote Gamegirl to get it to where it is today. A sharp dramedy about cyberpunk and sad girl Spencer, who sets off to reclaim her childhood Game Boy from the clutches of her manipulative ex before her reality completely crumbles around her and she is trapped inside of a literal game world. As Colby, her ex, relentlessly tries to woo Spencer back and guilt trip her into his life, the world around Spencer begins to slowly and artfully glitch and deteriorate as the various video game elements animate into the live action over the course of the whole film. And at its peak, the world collapses around Spencer, and eventually the screen explodes into a new world where a completely pixelated Spencer drops from the sky into a video game arena, and the two engage in a battle to take control. Spencer is seemingly defeated when they're brought back to reality, and she must face if she wants to continue replaying this game forever or remove herself. Jess and I kept joking that we were the modern day female Michelangelos, humbly, of course, because his quote that every block of stone has a statue inside it, and it is the task of the sculptor to discover it. To us, this is exactly what writing Gamegirl felt like. The story itself is simple, but it showed us where it wanted to go, and we simply carved out those excess pieces to set Spencer free and to show the women around us that they harness the power to take back the controller within their own lives. Like I said, the premise is simple. A girl wants her Game Boy back from her ex-boyfriend. But what we believe sets the story apart is the deep level of nuance and complexity that exists within this dynamic. Although a clear antagonist, Colby isn't all that bad. He's an aspiring artist that, like most 20-something boys, thinks being depressed means he's enlightened. He romanticizes the idea and tragedy of dying young, idolizing celebrities who belong to the 27 Club. With wit and humor, he compensates for his mental health with a gravitational charm that he uses to elicit empathy from Spencer. Though he loves Spencer genuinely and doesn't mean to hurt her on purpose, he's just far too selfish to look outside of himself and reflect on how manipulative and toxic he really is. Whereas for our protagonist, Spencer, she habitually takes on other people's problems. She believes her love will be enough to fix them. Though her aspirations are high and she longs for that world of possibility, Spencer has sacrificed her dreams, interests, and wants in order to support others, including Colby. As a result, her reality often feels completely altered whether or not she's even playing a game. She must now choose between her pixelated, blurry, and complacent state and the future she genuinely truly wants. And in order to do so, Spencer must learn that in order to level up, she needs to let go. We purposely designed this story to be just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these relationships. What we're doing here is not full out addressing the abuse itself or making anyone relive their trauma on screen, and nor are we blaming anybody for causing it. We want to show the level of difficulty, confusion, and the need to overcome that it takes in order to let go and choose yourself. That it's no longer actually about winning or losing, but removing yourself from the game and picking you. And to speak a little bit more on the highly artistic and stylized world of Gamegirl, I'm going to pass the virtual mic on over to my dear friend and collaborator, Dayva.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Rachel. Hi, as mentioned, I'm co-directing Gamegirl with Rachel. I'm from the Capital District, specifically Schenectady, born and raised, and I'm now relocated to New York City, where I met these lovely ladies as I'm pursuing my film career. So as a film and music video director, and also a self-proclaimed lover of video games, I was instantaneously attracted to this project. I like to look at directing films as if I'm creating a painting. You know, it's not just the content of the image in front of you that's important. It's much more multifaceted than that. You know, what kind of paint did the painter use? Did they paint on canvas? What is the pattern of brush strokes and how close together or far apart are they? You know, what's the color palette? And the really special thing about making films is exactly this idea that the directors can entirely control with the utmost intention the moving image in which the viewer sees on screen. You know, these details are intricacies that I feel more often than not tend to be lost in many films these days. So I'm very, very excited to be bringing them back in Gamegirl. So stylistically, we like to look at Gamegirl as a marriage between Wes Anderson's film Hotel Chevalier and Edgar Wright's film Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Hotel Chevalier informs the moody undertones of this film's writing, where characters mean what they say but don't do what they mean. Scott Pilgrim, on the other hand, a film that was adapted from a comic book of the same name, is well known in the industry for its video game-like aesthetic that includes a mixed media storytelling approach. The film, one of my personal favorites, it really paved the way for the idea that the way in which a story is told can be just as informative as the actual story itself. And much like Scott Pilgrim, Gamegirl immerses the audience in a dreamlike alternate reality that is reflective of Spencer's mind and acts as a platform to emphasize our themes of toxicity and relationships. So, as Spencer falls more deeply into these mind games with Colby, her reality, and reality as we see it on screen, begins to disintegrate. The audience is clued into this loss of self that Spencer experiences as elements of her world begin to progressively animate. The more into this game-like animation the film falls, the more the audience can understand that Spencer is falling into these quite literal mind games with Colby. So one way we do this is Spencer throughout the film has heart lives that track with her and represent how much mental energy she has left. Sometimes they're seen as heart-shaped LED lights on her wall. Other times they're heart logos on her cigarettes. But the number of hearts that glow correspond to the number of chances she has left until she loses herself to Colby and the game world entirely. We wanted to do this because this really enables audiences to peer into the inner workings of her mind and really see how such a dynamic can either drain or boost the other's lifeline. Alongside this animation, we also utilize many other methods to bring Spencer's internal thoughts outwards. One editing technique we plan to incorporate is the use of split screens, where the viewer screen will literally split in half to showcase each character's differing perspectives. We intend to use this technique only to showcase when Spencer and Colby are emotionally divided, as the viewer will then be given the omniscience to see when Spencer and Colby are quite literally not on the same page about things. We will also incorporate other visual camera movements, such as camera whips, which seen here is a scene from La La Land. You can also see how they did the camera whip, which I like that gif. And also vertigo effects, which you might recognize this little clip from Jaws. And we're using these in order to highlight the different automatic emotional responses from each of our characters. You know, I mean, let's be honest, emotions can be overwhelming as they're being experienced. And these camera choices we chose to really further support Spencer's internal turmoil as she's, living it. So much like a painter's palette, as I mentioned earlier, directors get the option to choose a color palette of their own. The color palette in the world of Gamegirl is far from accidental. Spencer's color is purple, a color known for its rarity and representative of power. It's not often found in nature, just as the animated world in our film artificially integrates into Spencer's natural environment. On the other hand, Colby, his color is yellow, a misleadingly joyful color with undertones of insecurity and insanity. Studies have actually shown, and this is true, that when in a yellow room, babies tend to cry more and people lose their tempers more frequently. I think that's crazy, but on the color wheel, yellow and purple are complementary colors, meaning that they contrast with each other more than any other color. As the film evolves, we see this battle between purple and yellow, each one depleting the other as it invades. Something I learned in art class is that when complementary colors are mixed together, they create a dull, dark shade of gray-brown. And we really loved this visual idea because it begs the question that perhaps Spencer and Colby can only shine their brightest independently. So finally, as a broader aesthetic choice, we have chosen the 90s gamer aesthetic as the backdrop of our film's world. And that's not just because we each have childhood Game Boys of our own. It's really this simplicity of childhood that beautifully but heavily contrasts with the complexities of being involved in adult relationships. I mean, why can't they be as simple as life felt like as a kid, where right was right and wrong was wrong, and we knew which was which, and there was no gray area or confusing nuances. This aesthetic choice supplements both Spencer and Colby's idea that there is a winner and there is a loser in relationships, a correct perspective and an incorrect one. But this unrealistic mentality powers Spencer's transformation from her urges to win to realizing when it's time to let go of the game. So, to help us make all these visual dreams come to life, we are so lucky to have the most amazing crew on board with us. Many of them are working professionals in the film industry who have an insane amount of experience and connections. To name a few, our director of photography, Connie Huang, works in the camera department on many notable productions such as The Wolf of Wall Street, Fences, The Girl on the Train, and many more, as you can see on there. Our first assistant cameraman worked on The Hunger Games, Broad City, Paper Towns, among many others. And our first assistant director currently works on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. These are just a few of the many talented people who are a part of our team. And truthfully, lucky for us, they are all willing to work for much lower rates than usual, just simply due to how much they loved and connected with the script, which is an insanely huge compliment to all of us. So, that said, I will pass the virtual mic off to Jess, our lead actor and co-script writer and very good friend of mine, to talk a little bit about distribution and what's next for Gamegirl.
Hi, everybody. I am Jess. Thank you so much for having me. I grew up in New York, so I'm born and raised New Yorker, can't get out. A little bit about me is that my approach to art making is extremely multi-hyphenate. I grew up as a musician and a singer, playing in bands and touring, and that's led me to both my love for writing and performance. I'm always working under the assumption that in order to be the best artist, you really need to understand the world you're working in from all sides. So I'm constantly finding myself in new mediums and crafting new ways to reinvent the wheel. That being said, with this multi-hyphenate approach to making Gamegirl, it has served us in extraordinary ways by really unveiling the scope of what is possible. What's most unique about our short film is due to its commercial appeal, point of view, and bold aesthetic choices, it has been met with strong industry interest and excitement before even being made. This first became clear when Julie Christeus of Tandem Pictures came onto the film as our executive producer. You may know Julie from the movie Black Bear starring Aubrey Plaza, which premiered at Sundance in 2020. With a mission to make movies about women and for women, her commitment to Gamegirl confirmed what we had hoped. This is a film people are going to love. Julie saw the potential of Gamegirl immediately and asked to be a part of the team. With Julie on board, our credibility as filmmakers is exponentially higher. Not only has she won at the most prolific festivals, but she is deeply beloved by this community. Film festivals can make or break an artist's career, and now with veteran experience on our side, we have a real chance to dominate the festival circuit and take our film to the next level, pun intended. So in addition to just premiering our short at these festivals, we will also be creating a 5-minute virtual reality experience. What's virtual reality? Virtual reality is a powerful tool in enacting change with social and political issues, as it is meant to put you literally in someone else's shoes. In the last 5 years, the film industry has become extremely interested in utilizing new wave technologies like virtual reality and immersion tech. Sundance, Tribeca, South by Southwest, they all now have film categories specifically for virtual reality shorts. It's 100% the future of filmmaking, and at this point, a pretty untapped market, which allows unknown and young creators to rise through the ranks fast. In our virtual reality experience, viewers will put on a headset and step into Spencer's shoes as she navigates the confusion and disarray of her toxic relationship. This experience will supplement our film by further interrogating the nuances of emotional abuse, toxicity, and women oppression, and it will premiere alongside Gamegirl the Short at film festivals and events. Ultimately, this will encourage more conversation about the topic and generate more buzz for Gamegirl the Short. Now, let me explain why our film with such a simple premise has so much potential. With Gamegirl, we bring together 3 extremely commercially viable enterprises: female empowerment, gaming, and the 90s. So let's talk about gaming. The gaming world is one of the most explosive industries on the market. Last year, it became an $100 billion industry, outcompeting film and sports. But although the industry is huge and expanding, gaming trend services like Steam still are pointing to 8-bit games, meaning Mario and Pac-Man, as the most popular. This begs the question, why are gamers paying for outdated gaming system at outrageous prices when there's all this new technology? Well, that's where the 90s nostalgia comes in. If you ask any 18 to 35-year-old if they've ever had a Game Boy, their eyes will light up. Game Boy is a product steeped in joy. It reminds us of the days where life was simple, when you could flip open your Game Boy in the backseat of your parents' car and disappear into another world, forgetting about whatever nonsense was happening in real life. The whole point of gaming is to feel like a kid, and it's the simplicity of the 90s where there were no cell phones or social media that make its gamer culture unlike anything we've ever seen since. Gamegirl the film uses the Game Boy as its nostalgic backdrop and cleverly contrasts it with the complexity of being involved in adult relationships. This, on top of the fact that statistics since 2010 have shown that women make up around half of all gamers, and yet the gaming industry remains a place where women are underrepresented and extremely sexualized, gives us a perfect opportunity to fill an industry hole with Spencer, our empowered gamer girl. Our plot, aesthetic, and use of video game elements in the film easily and almost obviously already lend themselves to becoming a playable experience, which is why we plan to market and supplement the Gamegirl short with an array of gaming experiences: video games, computer games, apps, and of course, Game Boy games themselves. With this experiential component, we give Gamegirl the opportunity to attract both film lovers and gamers, expanding our market possibilities. And how we will do that is by entering strategic partnerships, perhaps most obviously with Nintendo, the home of the Game Boy and leader of the industry. In a partnership, we would hope to create gaming products and under their wing, which would immediately take us from short film to sellable interactive product and create a possibility to maybe even make some money, which is rare for a short film. Our second strategic partnership hope is with Bumble, a dating app specifically designed to put women in control of their love life. Bumble's CEO, Whitney, is an entrepreneurial legend and is currently expanding Bumble into a Disney World status by investing in curating new media and branding opportunities. We hope to give Bumble ad placement in the actual film itself as notifications pop up on Spencer's phone when she's checking her battery. This would make Gamegirl an exciting marketing venture for the dating platform, but also give us the opportunity for it to be seen around the world. These 2 examples of brand integration are just the beginning, and we already have built a team of industry professionals that will help us get our ideas off the ground and turn Gamegirl into not just a short film, but an entire universe. We, as women creators, Understand that in order to be taken seriously by a male-dominated industry, we have to make a big splash. And we know that Gamegirl has the potential to be that entry point if we can make the film with the budget and specificity it needs. Gamegirl shoots the last week in September, and to go into production without cutting any corners and being made at the highest quality, we need $60K. Here is a comprehensive breakdown of how we get to that number. So if you'll see, it's $1,600 for camera rentals, $3,000 for crew meals, $1,000 for our cinematographer, $2,000 for editor, and so on and so forth if you look down the list. The enthusiasm we have received for this project only grows with each person we speak to. And at the moment, we have $15K, so 33% of our overall budget already raised through pitches like these to friends, families, and business acquaintances. By giving to our film, you are investing in young women creators who plan to have long careers that deeply interrogate taboo topics centered around the struggle of women and exploit a system that is built to keep us from achieving our potential. But on top of that, by donating to our campaign, you will also receive a handsome tax deduction, as we are partnered with a film non-for-profit called Rooftop Films. They are an incredible organization that is well known and beloved within the film industry. They have their own screening events and grants and outdoor movies, and by being under their wing, anyone who donates to Gamegirl will be giving to a charitable organization. Therefore, if you're looking for a tax break, you might have more of an incentive to donate in larger amounts. But more than just ask you to open up your wallets, we want to create a community around the Gamegirl movement in our entrepreneurial venture, and therefore have come up with a list of fundraising perks and incentives for anyone who wants to be a part of our journey. So, for $15K, you will be an associate producer on the film. That basically means you'll be invited to all of the events that we ever do. Your name will be on the movie, and you'll be involved in like the success of the momentum of this film. For $10K, you will be given, our animator will create an animated version of yourself. So he'll draft one up and you'll be sent to you, and it also might be featured in the film itself, as we have a fully animated section. For $5,000, you will be given IMDb credit on our film and the option to be an extra. So that means you'll come to set for a day and you'll be in the background of one of our scenes. For $2,500, you get credited in the special thanks of our film and in the future feature film that any of us make. So whether it's the Gamegirl feature film or whatever next film any of us creators on the team make, your name will appear in that special thanks section, and it will be, the feature means full length. For $1,000, you will be given an invitation to our official premiere and film festival, and the after party. For $700, you get to pitch your idea to the Gamegirl team. So if you're a writer or creative and you have an idea that you want to work through, we are more than happy to sit with you and go through whatever this idea is, flesh it out. You can ask us questions. We'll give you feedback on what we think. We have a great team, a very experienced team. And so whatever medium you're looking for, we're here for you. For $500, similarly, you'll be given a one-on-one with a team member. What makes this a little different is it's a very, very talented team, and we all do a bunch of different things. So I'm a musician, I play guitar, I play piano, I sing, I'll give you a voice lesson. We have our directors will take you through how they break down a script. Our writing team will show you how they bulletproof like a plot and go through it and what the evolution is. Our producers will tell you how they take a film from the beginning to when it's made. Basically anything you could think of that you're interested in learning, we have. And so if it's something that's to do with the entertainment world, come take a lesson. For $200, you'll be given a curated playlist from the movie. So in our process, we come up with a lot of other references outside of just visuals to create kind of a sounding board for the film, and that will be given to you in a playlist. You'll also be given a private link for the film ahead of its release, so you'll get to watch it in the comfort of your own home. And for $100, you'll be given a Gamegirl wallpaper for your device, including an Instagram thank you shout out on our Instagram page. This is all information we will send out to you after this presentation, so feel free to take your time and do whatever feels comfortable. And if you want to help us out but don't want to give us a number that has a perk, please feel free to give whatever feels right. Even if that's just by following us on Instagram and telling your friends and watching the movie when it comes out. We really feel honored to connect with an organization like Palette, and we hope that this pitch is just the beginning. So thank you so much, Steve, and the Palette community for having us today.
Very nice, ladies. I hope everyone got a lot out of that. That was quite a vision that you have there. I'll just ask one quick question. And Marcella, do we have questions lined up? People have questions?
No one has submitted a question yet, but I know, we've got one. We've got one from Denise.
Okay, but wait, let me ask my question first.
Okay.
And then my question is, will you do the film premiere of this Gamegirl at one of our Palette cafes when this thing comes out? We don't have red carpets, but we might have purple carpets.
We'll take the purple carpet. That sounds awesome.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so the official world premiere will be at a Palette up here. The regional premiere will be up here. You ladies, you did a really great job, and I guess I should have not painted my daughter's room yellow. I should not have done that. Okay, Marcella, hop on and get some questions. I have some people who just texted me with questions too. So
Awesome. I think Denise is up first, and then Michael, you're on deck.
Thank you. Ladies, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible vision and passion and expertise and art with us. I think that I love the way you are combining so many really cool things, and it just hasn't been lost on me as someone a little older than you all that just the difference between seeing on film and television, as well as reading more and more stories that are really told from a woman's perspective about all different aspects of life, and the impact that that has on people can't be understated. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and also to maybe inspire some of the folks that are on the video call with us. There were a few of us who got together in anticipation of this event and who thought, we'd really like to help you as much as we possibly can. And we really appreciate you sharing both, what it costs to do something like this, as well as, where the money goes, which a lot of times I don't think people realize. So that small group of us would just like to say that we would match any donations that you secure from the Palette community, let's say throughout this week, up to $2,500 to help assist you in your production, and really hope that will inspire people to get on board and to really go for it. So brava.
Wow.
Great.
Thank you doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yeah.
That's I don't even know how to react. Thank you genuinely from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much. This is something we're extremely passionate about, and is so deeply personal as well. And so that it means 100 more than million than you could ever even know. So thank you.
Yeah,
we really are so grateful.
this is
amazing.
This is really cool. Yeah, we passed the hat around in anticipation, because I've worked with you now for a few weeks, and it's been very, very fun to get to know you and to really see your vision here. But so what we'll probably do here is we're going to leave this the tape of this up on the Palette venues, and you can share it. And anything that comes in over the next 7 days or so, you get a match on the first 2,500. So you'll have to you're going to have to hustle. Do we have any other questions there, Marcella?
Yes, we do. So before I turn it over to Michael, I also wanted to say there's a Capital Region connection here that I don't think we mentioned. Can you guys speak to that before I turn it over to Movie Mike?
Yes, that's me. Hello. I was born and raised in Schenectady. Been there. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm there every weekend, to be honest, as Steve knows, as Marcella knows, as Pete knows. Yeah, Schenectady is my home. So really connecting with you guys and just people from the Capital District in the area means so much to me on a personal level, because just supporting my growth and the fact that that's where I started and here I am and it's full circle. And it just really means so much to me that I'm even talking to all of you right now. So thank you.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. I'm in Schenectady right now, so I'm feeling the vibe. Michael, are you ready with your question?
So I unmute myself, right? Okay. Girls, fantastic job. I mean, of getting the word out as you've done. My question is sort of like I've had like the two sides of my brain, the creative side and the business side, and I'm curious, has there been any sort of I'll use the word conflict between maybe the two sides working together, and each of you, ladies, would you consider yourself more of the creative side or the business side? Or do you feel that right now each person has to be both, or is there a little of each?
It's kind of wild. I think there's a little bit of an ongoing joke that this is our full-time job and our full-time jobs are our side gigs. When it comes to this project, I think in terms of the creative informs the business aspect, at least like personally speaking. For me, and I think like we all share a very similar sentiment when it comes to it, that as we have that creative fulfillment and continue to explore the different possibilities of the creative, it makes us that much more excited to make it happen from that business perspective. And we kind of all have our various experiences within the business side. And so when it comes together, I think that we really kind of fill in each other's gaps as well. And right now you're just kind of looking at 3 members out of 5 of the production team. As I mentioned earlier, Pranav and Sydney are 2 of our incredible producers who help put together everything that we do. And we don't do anything without consulting them and like really value their word as well. So it's really all hands on deck effort.
Yeah, and it really does take 5 producers on this film to make it happen, which is because of, I think, how big this universe can really become. And so I think with this film in particular, the creative and the business and the hustle is so interconnected because there's so much potential. And I think we feel that pressure like immensely. And so we're working and often like when we have an idea for a creative thing, it just lends itself to being part of how we hustle this film along and how we produce it. So it's been a really like symbiotic kind of relationship, as like as things happen, it informs our creative processes or vice versa.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. That was a great question. Next up is Julie.
Hi, gang. Women, you did an awesome job. The pitch was great. It was thorough and it was informative. Someone coming in from the outside and seeing this for the first time. The question I have for you is a nice sort of segue from what Mike just asked, but I'm sort of going to take it to the next step. Is there a reason, and let me just share with you, I know nothing about the film industry. I know nothing about the entertainment industry. So let me preface it with that. Is there a reason why you're doing this as a nonprofit entity versus a business enterprise, whereas my money would be contributed as an equity position versus a donation? So just, it's probably a bigger conversation than we have time for today, but just curious about that.
No, that's a great question. And that was a huge thing that we discussed and figured out as we went through this process. So basically within the film industry, short films, which is what this is, don't make money. You're not going to see a return on your investment. That's what happens with feature films. And that's why they're considered investors, because it's an investment. Hopefully you're going to get your money back. So with a short film as our fiscal sponsor, we become a charitable organization, and Rooftop Films is specifically interested in helping female filmmakers. And so if people are interested in female organizations or donating to a charity that would help women grow and expand their resources, they've taken us on so that they give that incentive because they know that you're not going to see a return. So we basically become a charitable organization. And then the hope is that once the short gets made, that leads to the future, the feature film, the virtual reality. And that is also something that you can see a return on. And so it's kind of a step-by-step process, and which is why we have decided to go for a non-for-profit route. There are a lot of short films that do crowdfunding campaigns a million different ways, you know, through Kickstarter, through GoFundMe. And we just felt, because of the budget of our film being higher probably than an average, due to our animation, our budget is higher. That's just like, that's part of it. And so we knew we needed larger amounts, and which is why we went the non-for-profit route instead of just going down your average crowdfunding campaign where there was no incentive to donate.
Yeah, and part of that incentive as well is that with any donation amount, you also get a tax write-off due to its nonprofit status. And so that's also a super huge like connection for us as well. And especially because Rooftop does so many events around the city, it also and has their own grants that they kind of keep pretty internal. It gives us a leg in terms of developing a relationship with them long term, while also giving back with that tax incentive to whoever is able to donate.
Very helpful answer. Thank you both. And then the follow-up to that is, in your spreadsheet, in your expenses, did you include salaries for yourselves and the team?
Yeah. So the team, all the cast and crew is being paid. That's been an extremely important part of our process. We really want to create an environment where people are paid their salary. At this moment, the only people who don't have a salary on the books is us and the producing team. And that's just purely because we want to get this film made, and that will be on the back end. So, you know, you got to make money in order to spend money in order to make money, and hopefully that will come around, but not quite yet.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage you, since it is a film about women empowerment, and since we are talking about empowerment, the number one advice I can give you is pay yourselves first.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that a family member? I'm just wondering, is that okay? The thing I want to tell you, ladies, is $1,000 for the crew to eat at Shake Shack. You can cut 500 off of that and just get some of the McDonald's instead or something. So just a tip.
That's amazing. Julie, that's like incredible advice. And I think every woman in business in this room, and you men too, should heed it. Next up, we have a question from Georgia.
Hi, this is really to say, it reminds me so much, and I'm sure you've heard of LunaFest, but you know, films for women, about women, and by women, and they do a festival around the country once a year, and it is just phenomenal. So I would love to you know, get involved in whatever way I can. One of the questions that I have in particular is, when you talked about your strategic alliances and partnerships, have those conversations started with Bumble and with Nintendo, seeing that you're already utilizing, you know, Gameboy's somewhat structure, or even, you know, just the branding itself? Are you in conversations with them? Are you seeking out a network that can get you connected to them? What have you done so far?
Yeah. So what's awesome about having our executive producer, Julie Christeos, on board is that she is extremely well connected, and she has started reaching out to people on our behalf as well, especially because we're kind of young and new in the industry, and her being a veteran, her name kind of has a little bit more power at the present moment. And so she's been really helpful in terms of getting those conversations going and starting to reach out to them. So those things are more so in the works, but we're also looking to partner with on a local level companies and organizations, and even just local shops around New York to kind of promote, especially like female driven businesses. If it's not a financial incentive, just a feature, like utilize their clothing and then tag them in the credits type of thing. So we're looking at options big and small. Those are kind of Bumble and Nintendo being our two big kind of mountains to climb. But with Julie on board, we think that it's definitely possible, especially with her success.
Yeah, and we have a few people, including Pete, who's on the call, who are helping us kind of bridge those relationships. And we'll be honest, like we're in like very early stages of trying to make those connections happen. And hopefully in doing presentations like this and doing and continuing to talk about the film to the right people, we'll be able to find a very affirmative way to do this and move forward. But we have really, really high hopes. And so far, everything's been going pretty swimmingly. Yeah.
Excellent, because I do think that you're right in terms of getting different types of people around that table as well, because of different connections that we have in this community as well as outside. I think that's important to foster those as well. But that's terrific. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Georgia, awesome as always. Next up, we have a question from Katie.
Hey, I just want to say this was super cool to listen to, and I'm really excited to watch your movie when it comes out. I think it's going to be great. My question is just about, I feel like so many movies, and especially this movie that you're going to make, is going to tackle a lot of potentially like tough topics like mental health and relationships. And you touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious if you've thought about how you're going to navigate any difficult conversations that might come about, either criticism or just from general public and feedback that you get once the film is made.
Great question. So in terms of like feedback and like any backlash in terms of that, I mean, I think that anytime you kind of go against the grain, there is bound to be pushback in that department, but that's not going to let it stop us. If anything, it's kind of going to inform the need to say and share these types of stories. It is honestly probably just going to make us more motivated. And so in terms of that, that's kind of where our heads are at, I think.
And this is a topic that I'll say I came on board after the script was already a few drafts in. And I just remember reading it and just feeling so absolutely connected to the idea. And I realized in that moment how important it is for these things to kind of come into fruition and to be talked about, because it's not as black and white as things appear. I mean, nothing is, right? But a lot of time in films anyways, from what I've seen, is if there's abuse, so to speak, it will be taken to the max. And rarely have I seen the nuances of the small sort of, levels that really abuse can look like and can take. And I think that after reading that, I realized that that's what women and men face every day. Those are the realities. It's not just one big dramatic, nightmare for most people. So I think that in order to reach the people we want to reach, but also talk about the things we really want to and tell them that they're seen, that even these little tiny, like just remarks that are made about you or to you and just kind of belittle you, those are as important as the large events that happen as well, unfortunately. So
yeah, I think as women, like, and in kind of creating this really strong team of women and talking about our experiences, I think sometimes you don't realize like how deeply internalized things become in yourself, how available you are to being taken down by someone else, how much validation it feels like you don't even realize that you are asking of other people, and because you don't feel powerful and in control for yourself. And as we've talked about this topic, it just has come up more and more like this is just something that is in all women. This story is very specific in its journey, but we hope that people hold up a mirror and get to see this on screen and go, oh, wow, okay, I didn't even realize that that's the reason I was feeling this in my own life. Like I felt all this resentment and sadness, but I didn't realize it because I felt like I was out of control. And I think control is a huge thing for women and not something we are given, but have to fight for. And that's really hard in this age. And so we are embracing the idea that we can pioneer and begin conversations about this topic.
Absolutely. And we're not looking to depict or have anyone relive their trauma on screen. That's something that was really important to us, because I think we've all seen movies where there's a scene that we kind of have to look away from. And that's not something that we wanted or are interested in with this. We kind of are more so interested in what does it take to break free, even in the most like subtle aspects.
I think everyone is just getting more and more hyped by the minute to see the final product and to know that it's going to be happening, the creation of it in the near future. I have so many questions, but first we have to hear from Kirsten. She is next up.
Hey everybody. Thanks so much, ladies. Gamegirl team. I love it. My question kind of goes off of Katie's question. Thinking about, I don't know much about the film industry other than I used to go to the movies a lot and I can't wait to go again someday soon. Do shorts get ratings similar to like PG-13, R, M, whatever, the way even now like Netflix shows and everything has? So I was just curious about whether or not you've considered, because this seems like there's going to be a lot of, you know, not subtle topics that are being addressed. So I'm just curious about where you guys are thinking on that.
Yeah, I mean, so we probably are at a PG-13 rating, I would say. And what is specific in particular, I think, about our film, we've just kind of talked about this, but more is that we do it in a very nuanced way. I think probably the most apparent theme that is destructive and could be really kind of hard to process emotionally is Colby, her ex-boyfriend, has suicidal tendencies, which is a part of why she stays in the relationship. Is she doesn't want to be she feels responsible for taking care of his mental health and making sure he, quite frankly, stays alive. And so that is done through the film in kind of not in a cheeky way, but in a metaphorical way of like this game world kind of overcoming, and then they're in an actual pixelated battle sequence where they're fighting each other physically, but through like the lens of a battle. So it's a little bit easier to digest than seeing like, you know, them hitting each other in their apartment. Like it's that's not what's going on.
Yeah, and also something I want to clarify. I don't know if we totally clarified this before, but just for those of you that aren't, you know, familiar with kind of the film world and how distribution works, something, you know, that we talk about a lot is festivals. We really see this film getting into festivals, but what does that really mean? So once it premieres at festivals, festivals are a great place for distribution companies and people to kind of go there and have access to watch your film, and then reach out to us, and we connect with these people at these, you know, varying festivals around the country and around the world. And even people like, you know, representatives from all different companies like Netflix, HBO are at these places watching all these new films and this new content and meeting all these new storytellers and directors and up and coming people. So as we're there, you know, it's very possible that something like a platform as big as the ones, you know, like HBO started doing short films as well and having a section for that, could easily see this film somewhere at one of these different environments and talk to us and sort of pick us up in that way. So it's a little bit less clear in terms of up until we know festival is where we want to get it, and the bigger ones are better, more people will be there. But up until then, it's kind of like fair game. And I would agree with Jess, this would be probably PG-13, right?
Yeah. And the great thing about festivals as well is a lot of bigger feature films, television series, etc., are inspired by and picked up from short films. So short films can sometimes be seen almost as like a proof of concept. And so while we are putting our hearts into it as its own kind of like entity under this like Gamegirl umbrella, we're definitely open to kind of the realm of possibilities of where this story could go and extend to.
Thank you, Kirsten. That was a great question. Thank you, Gamegirl team. I'm so inspired. I think it's about time that I put into the chat the link where if you'd like to make a contribution, you can start doing it. And just a heads up for everyone who is here and who has registered, I will also send out an email this afternoon that has this link included. And that will allow you to keep the momentum going. But I'm going to turn it over to Steve because I think he's got some questions.
Well, I just wanted to make a point here that one of our members, Dawn, I don't know if Dawn wants to talk, if her mic goes up or mic is off, so let her. Dawn, why don't you just give them your generous offer here.
Hi, guys. I love the presentation. For 15 years, film and TV production paid my bills. So very familiar with your world. Well, I have a video interview series I do. It's called Conversations with Friends, but it's always about mental health and wellness, really, is my main mission in life. And I'd love to have you gals on to not just talk about your project, but what's behind it, and about just the topic of how abuse can look, that it is not a slap, it is not a punch, that there is this, I think it's so important for people to understand this low grade, insidious kind of thing that can happen, which can be as traumatic, if not more traumatic, if you never quite understand what's happening to you. And for us to be able to have a conversation around that, so that maybe other young people, or those of us who are not so young anymore, might recognize that it's something that has happened or is happening in their lives. I put my email up in the chat if you guys want to reach out to me and we can figure out a time to do that. I would love to have you on.
That'd be amazing. We will reach out right after this.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Exactly. And everybody at Palette listens to Dawn's podcast. So that'll be great. One last thing, I don't think Victoria Schultz is still on here, but she was a student of mine at Ithaca College in Communication. She herself made a award-winning animated film, and she just wrote me, she's got to hop back on her plane. She now works for in the business world, but she said if you need any help with animation, she would like to, reach out. So I'll have her reach to you on LinkedIn and all. She's very talented, and her little film did really well at these festivals that you're talking about. All right, Marcella, I'll let you wrap it up because I don't know if we have anyone else, but I guess I'll just say we'll put this up on Palette. And we'll put the link on where people can donate and hopefully match Denise's offer that she lined up in the next week or so.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you to Denise and thank you to Steve. And before we wrap it up, we have another comment from someone in the chat. Jareen is her name, and she isn't looking to speak. So I'm going to be her voice today. And I'm just going to read what she wrote to me because I think you guys are going to love this. And I agree. I'm not looking to speak, but I think there could be a great opportunity to use a podcast to spread this message and build a Gamegirl community. Similar to what Glennon Doyle is doing with her We Can Do Hard Things podcast. Encourage community building through podcast parties where Gamegirl is discussed. Please share this with the team and thank you. And thank you. I think that's a great suggestion. And, there's a lot of people who love marketing who are on this call with you. I see you all. We're all like, our brains are spinning with ideas on how that we can, be beside you and help you to promote this when the time is right. But again, thank you so much. Team, you did a great job. I think everyone is super excited. Let's give them a round of applause, the way that we do it in Zoom, silently.
Thank you all so much. It's honestly such an honor to be able to.
Yeah, Marcel is going to follow up with all of your names and contact information, and everyone that I see on the screen is on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all that. So why don't we help our 3 filmmakers out by connecting with them? Because it's tougher for them to connect with 45 people here. And also, ladies, you probably want to check on to the comments as we run this podcast for the next week, this Zoom cast, and answer any questions that may come up, because we get more people will be looking at that than I actually that were on here live, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right? Thanks so much.
Steve, I think you just started a new thing, a Zoom cast.
A Zoomcast, absolutely. A Zoomcast.
Look at him go.
Someday they're going to do Gamegirl 4, and it's going to be about the 2020s and the Zoom relationship. That's what they're gonna do.
Nostalgic.
On the bright
Okay.
side, it will still have a 90s aesthetic because the 90s are
Of
back.
course.
I think Palette is adopting, whether they know it or not, but they have been adopted by the Palette community. And we're going to be following this because when you're accepting the Oscars, we want a thank you
Yes.
to the Palette community. So that's what we're in it for. All right.
Thank you so much.
Steve?
It was so
Steve,
great.
can I just add one quick thing? Well, there's some, is there background sound first? I have something, do you hear it? Can someone?
Yeah, I got
It's Jeff Weiss. I was so super impressed by your Gamegirl team. I just want to know, I was more impressed than I've ever been. I haven't really heard this, even though, as you know, Dayva's my daughter. I'm a little embarrassed, but I was trying to get online to do this, but Kathy and I were like texting. That's Dayva's mom, but we're going to donate $10,000 to you guys. That impressed. So you're on your way.
Well,
But
there you go.
the on-site thing was a little confusing for an old guy like me. It asked about routing numbers, and Steve knows, guys like me, we can't figure it out, but we'll figure that out. But that's our commitment to do it. It was great.
There you go.
Thank you, Dayva's dad.
Thank you, Dayva's dad.
Wow, you are all seriously so incredible.
Oh my, I had.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. We're gonna cry after this.
What a home run.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Marcel? We're all set here?
Yep,
Because I
we're
know you
gonna
have
wrap it
another one
up.
coming up.
But you know, I just really want to say to the team, like, this is what it looks like to have people believe in you, to have support. And a lot of us are strangers, but we won't be forever.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all.
Yeah.
We really
Overwhelmed.
appreciate it. All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.